My name is Martin Friedlander. I'm a matrimonial attorney from New York City. I think they're afraid because of the community. Everybody thinks that the neighbors, the shidduch, the yeshivas that the children are going to, it's going to be all over the community. They're not going to be able to walk on the street, and everybody's going to look at them. And that's what I think Tahal is trying to do, is get that off so that, no, the only way to deal with this issue is going to the proper authorities. And in New York, the Rabbanim are being taught that the only people that can deal with abuse are the authorities. We're not set to deal with that. We can't punish anybody. We can't take anybody off the street. And the only way that we're going to make a difference is if they report to the authorities.
What's your advice?
Well, my advice, and I think in New York, I can't tell you what's going on in Israel right now, but in New York, the Rabbanim are telling you that you got to go to the police. Because what can we do? I mean, unless there's an issue of whether it's true or not, the rabbi has no role right now. An abuse victim has to be treated properly, and the only way to get the person off the street or away from the abuser is with the proper authorities.
Give me 1 minute about what you're dealing every day.
Okay, I'm a matrimonial lawyer. I do family law, so I deal mostly with divorce. But out of divorce, you see abuse of spouses, husband's wife. You see abuse of children, custody battles. This is what goes on. I appear in the Supreme Court, which is the secular court. I also appear in Beis Din if a client wants me to go.
Very expensive. What's the solution about?
Unfortunately, so one of the solutions could be is that there should be organizations helping funding attorneys, because there are some organizations that provide free legal counsel, but it's very limited. And some of them are not as experienced as people who are trying cases every day and day. It is expensive. It is because it's the hours, it's the time that's involved. These are complicated cases. These are not an hour of chesed. It's hours and days of work. But I think one of the solutions was some of these organizations that go out for abuse victims should be getting lawyers to work with them, and something can be worked out with that. I think that you have to understand that you got to go to the proper authorities. You have to go to the authorities when something happens. You have to go to the professionals, whether the first person to see is the therapist or the psychologist or the psychiatrist, and they'll refer it. In New York, there's mandated reporters. I know that there's here in Israel as well, which means if a child tells you something happened, to a doctor, to a psychologist, to a Rebbe, they have to call Children's Services. They have to report it. There's no more discretion. And that's what has to be done, because the faster we get that out, that it's no longer a problem, to do that, and it will be able to affect the abuse. This morning we had exciting news. We presented a coalition called Yashar, and the concept is that we're going to have lawyers from around the world, which anybody who deals with the Jewish community and the issue of get, because get is also, withholding a get is also a form of abuse. And last year when I was here, I met many lawyers from different countries. And when I went back, we had a meeting, and I said, why don't we create an organization that would have lawyers from all different countries so that we can sit down, we can make a prenuptial agreement that maybe more people would accept, and that we would get lawyers from different countries to say, this is how it worked on this case. And we can take this aguna problem and put together lawyers and then teach Rabbanim and lay leaders and say, okay, we have some new solutions. Maybe we have some new laws to pass. Maybe something from Israel we can learn in New York. Maybe something from New York they can learn here to do this cases, to deal with cases that have with the aguna. Today we launched it. We're hoping that this afternoon at the session we're going to get the lawyers and other people to join. And in April we're planning to do our first session in New York City, inviting lawyers from around the world, and to get a prenuptial agreement that we're going to propose then, to have people, different Rabbanim, different Roshei Yeshiva approve, and to get that concept going, and so that we can deal with the aguna issue.